All right, let's dive right in. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to explore one of the most profound and dynamic stories ever told in classical literature. We're unpacking an ancient Tamil epic to uncover a tale of human frailty, devastating vengeance, and a mortal woman who literally becomes a goddess. We're looking at the Silappatikaram, which translates to the tale of an anklet. I mean, think about this premise for a second. What actually happens when human justice utterly fails? When the system breaks down so badly that a mortal woman's rage is the only thing left to restore cosmic balance. That is the core question driving the tragedy and the eventual triumph of our protagonist, Kannagi. This isn't just some dusty story about ancient royalty. It's about a woman who takes on an entire kingdom to right a terrible wrong. Here is how we're going to break it down today. First, the tale of the anklet, followed by the tragedy in Madurai. Then, we'll dive into justice, fate, and karma, explore the power of Karpu, and finally check out the Mangala Devi temple. So, let's kick things off with Section 1, the tale of the anklet. To give you a sense of scale, this thing is absolutely massive. We're talking about 5,270 lines of poetry, composed way back in the 4th century AD by Ilango Adigal, a Charan prince. It masterfully weaves together the three great ancient Tamil kingdoms. It's truly one of the foundational masterpieces of classical literature. And the structure itself is incredibly cool, kind of like a 3-act play tracking our main characters. Phase 1, Puhar Kandam, sets the stage with their life in Puhar. Then, Phase 2, Madurai Kandam, plunges us into their intense journey to Madurai. Finally, Phase 3, Vanji Kandam, covers the epic ascension in Vanji. Which brings us right to Section 2, the tragedy in Madurai. Now our story really kicks into gear with an arranged marriage between Kannagi and Kovalan. They both come from very wealthy merchant families, but Kovalan ends up losing absolutely everything to a dancer. Broken desperate, he goes crawling back to his incredibly faithful wife, Kannagi. Needing to restart their lives, they travel to Madurai, planning to sell her precious ruby anklets to get some much-needed capital. But here is where it all goes horribly wrong. Kovalan takes the anklet to a royal smith, not knowing this exact same smith had just stolen the Pandyan queen's anklet. To cover his own tracks, the smith frames Kovalan. But here's the kicker, the ultimate smoking gun. The queen's stolen anklet was filled entirely with pearls, but Kannagi's anklet, it was filled with rubies. A massive physical difference. Tragically, the Pandyan king just doesn't check the facts. He rashly executes Kovalan on the spot. When Kannagi finds out her innocent husband was murdered, she is absolutely furious. She storms the royal court, tears her anklet open, and outspill the rubies, instantly proving the king's catastrophic error. The king literally dies of shock right there in the throne room. But Kannagi is just getting started. Fueled by a righteous, fiery rage, she actually burns the entire city of Madurai to the ground. Moving on to Section 3, Justice, Fate, and Karma. So, what does this all actually mean? Well, looking at Dr. Nithya Rayesh's research, we see this isn't just an action-packed myth. It's a piercing critique of institutional failure. Kannagi exposing the king is really the epic showing us just how vulnerable our earthly justice systems are to terrible, fatal human errors. There's this incredible quote from the epic that says, "Though kings may err, the law of righteousness is never undone." It's basically telling us that justice isn't just a flawed courtroom, it's a cosmic necessity. When human systems fail, when a king makes a fatal mistake, the universe absolutely must find a way to correct it. Kannagi's vengeance? That was the universe rebalancing itself. Let's dive into Section 4, the power of Karpu. You really have to understand the Tamil concept of Karpu here. It's usually translated as chastity, or steadfast virtue. But this epic totally flips that idea on its head. Karpu isn't about being passive or docile. No way. For Kannagi, her virtue was a formidable, transformative power. It was her absolute agency, a weapon capable of massive destruction and incredible renewal. And that power is literally what makes her divine. Because of her immense grief and virtue, Kannagi ascends to the heavens and transforms into the goddess Pafini. This isn't just a storybook ending. It started a massive, real-world cult of worship that spans right across South India and Sri Lanka, and it is still going strong today. Finally, let's look at Section 5, the Mangala Devi Temple. This blew my mind. When the ancient Chera king heard Kannagi's story, he was so spellbound he built a temple for her. Located way up on Vinachapara Hill at a staggering elevation of over 4,300 meters. He even dragged a special stone all the way from the Himalayas just to carve her idol. Over time, it was rebuilt with Choza and Pandya inscriptions, and it's still known today as the Kannagi Kotam. But bringing it back to the present, the reality is kind of sobering. Today, this incredibly ancient, historic temple sits in a heavily dilapidated state. It's completely caught up in a modern border dispute between Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So because of all these political and geographic struggles, this legendary site remains largely in ruins. But even if the physical temple is in ruins, the epic's message definitely isn't. As scholar Indira Parthasarthi notes, the epic continues to challenge us to rethink the limits of justice and the power of individual conscience. And I'll leave you with this fascinating question to chew on. If the very systems we build to protect the innocent can be so easily corrupted by human error, whose responsibility is it to restore the cosmic balance? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this inspires you to dig into some more classical literature on your own.